Hi everyone, thanks for joining us for a bit of a chat this afternoon. We're having a tremendous summer, and as you know, there's a few weeks left of the Commonwealth Bank Series, and not long before the Sheffield Shield final, we thought we'd have a little bit of chat. There's always lots of issues to talk about, and no doubt you'll be interested in that. But cricket has had as I say, a fantastic summer. There are more people playing cricket than any other sport, and right now there are more people watching cricket on TV than any other sport. The game's in great shape. There are always some issues to talk about, but we're really pleased with what we've seen this summer. I'll be happy to take your questions on anything you might like to ask about.
What's happening with Brad Haddon? Has he been dropped or rested?
Brad's very aware of the position. He's had a number of conversations with selectors particularly the national selector, over the last few weeks, and as late as or as soon as just 24 hours ago. So he knows that he's out of the team on a performance basis, and he's under no illusions as to where he sits in the selector's eyes.
Why did they say he was rested at the start of the series when he was obviously dropped?
Well, I think as I understand it, the communications to Brad have been very, very clear, and there's no doubt, and there has never been any doubt in Brad's mind as to where the selectors see him. And I think that he's been open about that right from the start. And I might say, and I might add, I think Brad's been very mature and very professional about that all of the time. I know that he doesn't necessarily want to be out of the team, but I think he's at the same time feels refreshed and is raring to go and fight his way back.
So do you think that the millions and millions of people who are watching and playing the game deserve reasonable communication? That they'd like to know what's going on with their team as well. But is he being rested? Is he dropped?
I think there has been a very strong focus over the last few months for the national selection panel to communicate very clearly to the players. And personally, I understand over the last couple of weeks that there might have been a little bit of uncertainty in the public space about this particular selection, I suppose, and personally I think that we can do better, and if we need to do better in that regard, then we will, and we'll work on that.
But cricket's been carved up in the newspapers and on the airways over the last week or so about perceived lack of communication. So why can't the public get the same reasonable communication with the players again?
Well, the communication to the players and to the player group, and you know from talking to some of the players, and I know that too, that communication has been a focus of improvement, and it's something that is happening, and the players are very comfortable with that and the fact that it has improved. As I say, if there are things that need to be clearer, made clearer in the public place, and they're not, then they're things that we need to improve, because we owe that to cricket fans around the country.
Why did that happen? Why, when the last squad of these two games was announced, why wasn't it made clear that he was dropped by John Inverarity? Do you know what sort of went wrong?
No, look, I don't know the specific detail of it. All I know, looking back on it, is that clearly something's gone awry there, and it's something that we need to be clearer on. I know John's speaking to the media with announcements next week, and that in itself, I think, is an opportunity to clarify some of those things.
Will you speak to John about the way it was handled, or will you speak to people in the organisation about
Yeah, look, I think we talk about these things a lot and reflect on them. We're not comfortable with the level of uncertainty and public discussion on this particular matter. The really important thing, though, for us, and the real focus in recent times for the national selectors, has been to the players, and perhaps that area of improving that for the public's benefit just needs to be touched up on as well.
What about Ryan Harris being rested from the one-day internationals? Is that just about player rotation? He's clearly in top form.
No, Ryan Harris is out of the side because he's not fit to perform, and I'm not privy to the exact conversations that have been had, but there's obviously a combination of things there, as John Inverarity has talked about. But I don't think it's right to say that he's just simply rested, because that's just not true.
What are your thoughts on Channel 9 going for Friday night league instead of cricket, the one day in Sri
My view is that cricket is an international sport. It's the Australian cricket team playing in that match in the Commonwealth Bank One Day Series, and the Australian cricket team should be the priority. That's my view.
James, Andrew Symonds retired from all cricket last night. Can you reflect on his career and I suppose maybe a little bit on the way that it ended as well?
Look, I think Andrew was an absolutely fantastic cricketer. I can't think of a more exciting cricketer that's played for Australia in the last, well, certainly in my time as chief executive. He was an absolutely fantastic player to watch, and I think back to that innings he played in the World Cup in 2003 when Shane Warne wasn't available, and he stepped up in that first game and made 150 against Pakistan. And it was really, for him, that was the time where he really stood up as an international player. He was a fantastic international cricketer. He was a guy that everyone loved playing with, and I wish him well with what he's got ahead of him with a child due in the not too distant future.
In hindsight, is there anything Cricket Australia might have done differently around, I suppose, the way that his career started to unravel in the international field?
Oh, look, I don't think so. I think that there were a whole lot of circumstances there, and I don't think it's the time to really look back on that. I think it's more significant is the fact that Andrew's announced his retirement from all cricket, and he was an absolutely brilliant player, and really there's not often that you have a player who people all over the world want to go and watch, and who's their favourite player. I've seen some of the comments on websites around the place saying, Indian people or Pakistani cricket fans saying Andrew Symonds was my favourite player, and that's the sort of player he was. He was an electric player, and I loved him. My kids loved watching Andrew Symonds, and when he was playing for Australia, he was clearly their favourite player.
What are your thoughts on Ricky leading the team out today?
Look, it's a bit of a blast from the past, isn't it? But it's an appropriate decision that the selectors have made, and I'm sure Ricky will do a great job. It's a pity Michael's not out there, but Ricky will stand in, as we know, very, very well.
We've seen a lot of the short-term changes, recommendations from the Argus review already implemented. What's the next phase now, looking at some of the longer-term goals that they recommended?
Well, I think a lot of the more longer-term things are about improving processes and systems, and the coordination between Cricket Australia and state associations, and I guess our high-performance pathways. And I think there's some really positive things that are happening there, and the level of collaboration between states and Cricket Australia is as high as I've seen it in my time at Cricket Australia. And but that's a first step along the way. This is a journey. It's not something that you can just say, well, we've fixed that. It's an ongoing thing, and it's something that everyone's working very hard on. And during the course of the off season, it's something that will be something of even greater emphasis.
So, James, given the revelations in the Telegraph this week that Martin Taylor has come out in support of, told the New South Wales board that he was in support of an independent commission. Are you confident that Cricket Australia will get an independent commission at the end of the Crawford-Carter report process?
Look, I'm not. We're in the midst of a process in regards to the governance review. And I think it's too early to say how that is all going to unfold. The Cricket Australia directors have taken a position, and they've unanimously recommended changes to the governance of Cricket Australia to the members. We've now just in the last day or so received feedback from state associations as to their comments, and the board of Cricket Australia will now consider those comments and have further discussion on it in a week or so's time. It's a process, and it continues to unfold. Ultimately, there's no end date to this, because ultimately it's a decision that needs to be made by the members, by the states, and Cricket Australia directors need to understand what it is, what proposition they want to put to the members for them to vote on.
So what do you think will happen at the board meeting on February 27th? How far will the process proceed at that meeting, do you think?
Look, difficult to. I'd be uncomfortable speculating about that. I haven't even had a chance to fully digest the feedback that's come back from the state associations yet. But that's really very much in the hands of the chairman, how he wants to run the meeting and how the discussion goes. But it's sure to be a healthy debate and a fulsome discussion on what's a very important issue for Australian cricket.
And people are asking me, it seems that everybody in Australian cricket has been reviewed except you. Why is that?
I can assure you that I've been reviewed very, very seriously, and I do get reviewed every year. I've got very clear performance indicators on what, in my role, that I'm required to try to deliver for Australian cricket, and they're reviewed and assessed every year.
James, just quickly wanted to ask about the ICC review that's been going on, the Wolf Report. You would have had a little bit of time to have a look at that, and obviously the next step in the process is for chief executives to meet and have a look over it.
Yeah, I haven't seen the agenda for, we've got a chief executives meeting in early March in Dubai. I haven't seen the agenda for that, so I'm not sure if it's on there. At times there are things that aren't on the agenda for the chief executives to discuss, and in some ways I won't be surprised if that's not on the agenda. It'll certainly be a point of discussion amongst the chief executives, even if it's not an official agenda item. But I think it's a board issue first and foremost. And as I understand it, the board received the report, didn't really have much discussion on it in the meeting. Their next meeting, I think, is sometime in April. So that's really the next stage. We'll discuss it. Cricket Australia will discuss it a little bit at our board meeting on the 27th. But I think that's something that's going to be a little bit of a process.
Have you got a personal view on its recommendations, what the direction it's pointing the ICC?
Oh, look, I think there's a lot of really good stuff there and sensible stuff about best practice governance, and that's what any cricket organisation, any proper organisation would want. There's also some practicalities, of course, in getting from one step to the next, and they're the challenges, I guess, the directors and then ultimately the members will need to tackle.
Is there any point having a discussion about it, given that India have publicly opposed it?
I think Cricket Australia's view on that is that it's the members of the board of the ICC have commissioned this review. It's got some recommendations about what's best practice, and so from that viewpoint, it would be silly just to throw it out. And I think Cricket Australia will obviously talk about that on the 27th. But if no organisation should be satisfied that it can't improve in some way by taking on recommendations that bring us closer to best practice.
Just on the captaincy quickly again, do you think Warner being left out, is that a matter of some inconsistency in his playing or inexperience, or a bit of both? And
I think that's probably a question for John Inverarity next week, but clearly there's some really good signs with David being recognised with the vice captaincy, and they've made a decision about Ricky captaining today, but there's a really strong message for David in terms of his leadership, and I think he made some comments yesterday that showed that he was very clear and understanding of the position selectors have taken with him being vice captain again today.
A couple more questions, folks, then we've got to move James on.
Reviews left, right and centre at the moment. The injury management reviews are far away from being completed. Will it be back up?
Yeah, so there's certainly it's an important issue, and no sporting organisation should ever be content about the injuries that are in place, and certainly we're no different. We want to see less injuries amongst our cricketers, and there's a duty of care there first and foremost before you even get into a performance sense. So we're just digesting some of that information and picking up a few more things that we believe can to really understand that, talk to the experts, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll be in a position to talk a little bit more about that. So it's out in the open, and some facts are laid out on the table.
Okay, one last question, Rose.
Just clarifying, so your stance on the Brad Haddin resting drop issue is it's unacceptable for selectors to mislead the public? Is that your stance? I'm just trying to...
No. Well, they're certainly not my words. But what I'm saying is that if there is a misunderstanding there, then we need to look at ways in which we can improve that to minimise the likelihood of any such understanding. And that's certainly something we'll be looking at internally to improve that.